that for emergency planning, if there's a disaster in Vancouver and if one or more of our very few crossings goes, then we will be in quite a bit of difficulty trying to just get out of the city. But what should the crossing be and what should its purpose be? And I think that that's the question that was never properly asked. Should it be a low-level street grid crossing? And I actually brought a map here which you won't be able to see, but a crossing that joins arterials in Coquitlam to arterials in Surrey might be a pretty useful crossing. Then you could put transit or a streetcar or a light rail down it, and that would be a very useful service. Unfortunately, what's being proposed is simply an extension to the freeway, and I think that that is just so, it just seems so wrong in this day and age to just think about a crossing just for a lot more cars at a very high level of fast-moving traffic. It's just completely the opposite of anything that we're doing in the city of Vancouver, and it's just philosophically and environmentally, as Eric says, we have to start from global warming and climate change and just think on from there. And if you start from that position, then you have to know that simply is that the end of my time? Okay, 5 minutes. You have to know that another freeway crossing is just not a good idea. So, so when the picture is shown of the twinned bridge with the light rail down the middle of it, it's very nice, but who wants light rail down the middle of the freeway? It's just not a good location for a light rail. So it should be planned for arterial, sort of local use, and it should be planned for light rail use. And I think if you thought about a crossing in those terms, you might come up with something quite different than what is proposed at the moment, which is the big freeway crossing. In terms of the motions that we passed, I actually, in a way, regret the way that they were phrased, which was that we oppose it. I actually really like what you're framing, how you're framing it here, which is what can we do to move the discussion forward, which is a more positive way of looking at it. And I actually, in a way, wish that we had said, we support what we support rather than what we oppose, because just opposing it is just like throwing mud balls and is not very helpful. And supporting something which is positive and useful, I think, may have in fact been a better way to frame that discussion, because I think there are other things that should and could be considered. I do, of course, continue, as a matter of fact, to oppose the bridge as it is in the plans right at the moment. Thank you for listening today, and thank you for being part of the discussion.
We started a year ago. We pulled together, well, when Gateway was announced, I went and met with my MLA, who was the transportation minister, and I said, boy, Kevin, you know, I've worked on these issues for a long time, and what we know about climate change, what we know about air quality, tells us that this is the exact wrong direction for us to be going at this point in time. And he said, Donna, you're the only person south of the Fraser who feels that way. So I went out and started collecting other people who felt the same way, and we had a news conference with 20 organizations. There are now 40, and it goes all the way out to Chilliwack and Abbotsford. In fact, we have supporters all the way out to Hope who understand that the interdependence. We had a big rally at the end of March that some of you may have heard about in the news. We had 800 people packed East Delta Hall. And the reason that I got active in Gateway is I believe that it is the greatest threat to livability that we have ever seen in this region. And I mean that from the perspective of air quality, our health. I mean that from the perspective of food security, biodiversity, and economic. And I'm going to go through those backwards. The provincial government is telling us that this is a $3.5 billion project. I'd say it's more like $5.5 billion. So how many people in this room are taxpayers? Then you have an interest, you have a very strong vested interest in getting involved in Gateway. How many of you care about wildlife? Okay. Gateway project is the single biggest threat to biodiversity that this region has ever seen. Susan talked a little bit about there are two gateways. There's the Pacific Gateway strategy, and then there's the Gateway program. It's all connected. There are 34 steps of the Pacific Gateway strategy, and it starts at Delta Port. We expand shipping to Delta Port, we're probably going to render our southern orcas extinct. Those big container ships travel the same route as our orcas do. They're a population that is already very much in peril, and they're talking about a dramatic increase in that traffic. Orcas communicate by sound, they find food by sound, and they navigate by sound, and those very noisy ships impair their ability to do all of those things. They burn bunker C diesel fuel, which is the most polluting fuel on the planet, and that is polluting the very waters that those orcas travel in. How many of you eat in this room? Okay, South Fraser Perimeter Road is going to take 1,000 acres. Do you guys have copies of this newspaper on your table? I want you to take a look at that farmland. We have some of the best farmland in the world in Delta, and 1,000 acres of it is being lost to port expansion and the South Fraser Perimeter Road. It's not just our food security that's being lost, it's also wildlife food security. It was announced last week that Canadian Wildlife Service has put out hunting permits to remove 40,000 snow geese because of lack of habitat. They're either going to have to be shot or they're going to starve to death because we're destroying so much habitat out there. Air quality. Eric talked about climate change, but the bottom line is we live in a region that has seen a quadrupling of asthma rates in children in the last decade. We have now more people dying of air pollution in this region than die from vehicle accidents and HIV. And any strategy that elevates that needs to have far greater public discussion. Thank you, Mike. Far greater public discussion than what we've had. The bottom line is that all of these impacts are being foisted on us, and none of us have had a meaningful say in whether or not we want this project or what we want it to look like. We need each and every one of you to visit your local politicians. Shane, I'm sorry to say, but we're all sitting here wondering where the hell the New Democrats are on Gateway. The bottom line is that there is currently no opposition, no political opposition to Gateway. It is all being grassroots driven. So the minute we see Carol James step out from the shadows on Gateway, we can seal the deal. Thank you.
When the Gateway issue came out, clearly within our caucus there was a division of opinion. There was a division of opinion from those south and north of the Fraser River. Those of us north of the Fraser River had serious concerns about the impacts of these proposals and what they would do to our communities, and broader impacts related to climate issues and related to the kind of issues that we've heard from the panel. Our members south of the Fraser shared those concerns, but they also raised a very big issue, which is about the total lack of transportation alternatives south of the Fraser, the public policy initiatives that have gone forward that have more than anything forced people to be even more dependent on their cars south of the Fraser than we are.
So I suggest any of you here who read and write, go down to the local registrar at the Vancouver and you pick up one of these. They give them to you free, and it's really only a matter of filling them in as they're indicated, because a lot of us are doing paralegal work to ensure that the common people in British Columbia can use their courts to their advantage, and this is all you need to do. Now, I heard today that there's a possibility this matter might be slipped through because the people in the legislature are not seriously raising their voices and seriously doing the job the way the previous NDP tried to do when they were in a very minority government. So I'm asking those people to take seriously upon themselves to say absolutely stop on this project. And absolutely anyone here who has the nerve and the diligence and is seriously concerned, as I say, simply to go down to the law courts and file for judicial review on this matter. This is a matter that needs serious judicial review. I refuse to allow Canada to be run off by a bunch of scoundrels and racketeers, because that is what has happened in the 48 years I've been in this country. It's time to stop this nonsense. Corporate capitalism is not the direction we need to go. We need to wake up to the fact we're all planetary citizens. We're all God's children. And as God's children, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to stop the pollution of our planet by the burning of more fossil fuels, especially in our backyards. Thank you very much.